everyone. Welcome back to another fantastic episode of the Urban Wine Club podcast. In a series of podcasts, we started with an amazing guest, and this is kind of a continuation. Before we get into too much detail, let me pass it over to my esteemed co-host Fotios Stamos. Hello, Foti.
Yasu Ari,
How are you?
I'm very well. In this episode, I'm actually signing in from Greece this summer. And as you mentioned, lots of exciting things here on the Urban Wine Club podcast, where we get the opportunity ourselves and the pleasure to meet some of the most amazing people who actually are behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, in the dirt, bringing us what we believe is some of the best expressions of wines today. And
Absolutely.
as you mentioned, our guests who are no strangers to our podcast, who are, I think, the leaders in their area that we'll discuss shortly. Let's first invite our guests and get to know her pretty well. With us today, Angeliki Iatridou, second generation winemaker of Alpha Estates. Angeliki, thank you so much for taking time out of your summer schedule to be with us on the Urban Wine Club podcast. Welcome.
Hey, hello, thank you guys so much first for having me. You have my dad, now it's me, it's my turn. So I'm so happy to be here and to talk a little bit further about me, the second generation, some other stuff as before. So thank you.
Of course, of course.
And
Angeliki,
this, Foti, this is going to be pretty interesting that we have multi-generational. I think that's such an amazing thing because we could get different perspectives, different views, different ideas. And I think that, for what we're doing, I think that presents such a bigger picture, right?
agreed. And this is such a pivotal moment where you just mentioned something key, Ari, is that we use the word second generation, and this is where a lot of greatness is happening in the industry in Greece for the wine world, where it's come a long way in such a short time, which we'll get to talk to Angeliki about it more in detail. But we are very excited because we read a lot about you. We read a lot about what's happening in Alpha Estates. We read a lot about what's happening in Amyndeon. And for us, it's a pure pleasure, and for our audience to actually get to hear it from the source, like yourself, Angeliki. Maybe you can give us just a little bit about yourself personally before we dive into, what it is all about Alpha Estate and Amyndeon.
Yeah, so I'm the second generation of Alpha Estate, located in Amyndeon in the municipality in Florina, Greece. So I did my first business bachelor in Greece, and then I did my master in viticulture and oenology. I went in Bordeaux, in Montpellier, and then I went half a year before COVID comes in Turin, in Asti, and in Alba.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so I did my thesis there, and then when I finished, I worked in a microbiology lab, and I came back in Greece to start the second generation things that came out.
So was it always a passion of yours to stay with the family business, or was it something just happened that you said, I'm going to come back to it?
So actually, I grew up in the fields. I grew up in the vineyard since I remember myself when I was a kid, going out with my grandfather in the fields, then my father being in the harvest every year, have the anxiety of what will happen, the weather will be fine, everything, it was on peak. So I think it just came. It just went. I went with the
Naturally.
flow. So I loved it since I remember myself, and studying it, I actually made the base on working afterwards on it. So it was meant to be, I
Excellent.
guess.
Meant to be. That's exactly the best way to put it. And meant to be, now that you mention that, not only does your family, your operation, your winery, which we believe, we can be biased if the audience wants to think that way, some of the best expressions, selections, productions that come out of Amyndeon. But not only do you make great wine, not only are you great viticulturists, but it's probably because, and you can explain this better or more, is that you're also in the right place to do so. So I think we should
Mm-hmm.
talk a little bit about the area that you're in, the location, the geography, the terroir, if we can use that word as well, that allows you to do what you do at even higher scale.
Of course, yeah. Actually, Amyndeon represents one of the most distinctive expression of a cool continental climate within the Greek vineyard. So our vineyards are located on a high plateau at elevations ranging approximately from 620 to 710 meters, where cold winters, frequent snowfall, relatively dry summers, cool nights, and northwesterly winds create the conditions for slow but balanced ripening. So there are also the surrounding lakes and mountains that ranges I would say shape a complex mosaic of microclimates across the region. And this pronounced difference, because we have semi-continental climate between day and night, allows the grapes to retain their natural acidity, aromatic purity, and I will say freshness at the final wines.
I mean, I mean that's you couldn't. I think if you use the word, you couldn't pay to have all those elements put together for you. It's almost like this ecosystem that's perfect for the production of the grapes that you grow. And having said that, let's talk about like what are the grapes that actually prosper in this ecosystem?
So the grapes that we mostly talk in our region are, I would say, it's the Xinomavro. I would talk a lot about this, and actually in our region, our objective is not just to change the identity of Xinomavro, but to express it in a greater precision, I would say. So we actually respect the variety's essential characteristic, its vibrant acidity that each wine and from the grape to the final wine contains, firm tannic structure, complexity, and a remarkable, I would say, capacity for aging. But we
Right.
work to present them with balance, purity of fruit, and elegance. This is our main goal. And as second generation, I would say an ambassador of this stylistic profile of this Xinomavro.
Well, that's probably one of the best expressions of Xinomavro that I've personally have experienced. Because if I'm not mistaken, Xinomavro must be one of the most challenging grapes to grow, if I'm not mistaken. And if
Yeah,
it's not,
yeah.
and if it's not in its proper or in its ideal conditions, it could go either way. It's very temperament if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yeah, it's actually we our single vineyard Xinomavro expressions comes from carefully selected sites. So what does it mean? We have sandy clay, I would say soil over limestone. We have low yields, green harvesting, and manual picking, which plays a big role to the final Xinomavro style and characteristics, of course, wine that we have at the end. I would say that very important historic cultivation that is the ungrafted bush vines that we have. One Xinomavro
Hmm.
that actually planted in 1919. So
Oh
which
wow.
provide a direct link to the viticultural heritage of Amyndeon and the new stylistically style and enological style, I would say, that we make in our winery.
Wow. Um, and as far as we can discuss the varieties, Xinomavro being the king of the vineyard, you're also growing other varieties too.
Yeah, I would say that Florina is one of the coolest and most mountainous PGI zones in Greece, and when Assyrtiko, one of the white varieties that we also indigenous we have there, it does not attempt to reproduce the island expression that you may know, but it develops a distinctly northern identity defined by vibrant acidity, citrus fruit, and I would say a white freshened fruit, while it has also characteristically mineral and refreshing quality. So what we do is that in order to reveal this expression, we begin with a precise selection of vineyard location and soil. So our Assyrtiko is cultivated in well-drained alluvial, sandy and sandy clay soil, while we have generally low fertility limestone rich subsoil in order to control this expressive vine vigor that we don't need at the final grape. So it will help develop this balanced wine and balanced acidity levels of the final wines of Assyrtiko.
Or Sirtico. And real quickly, Angeliki, can we remind our audience the difference between PDO and PGI in very simple terms?
Yeah. I would not say in a lot term, but I would say that the PGI wines restrictions are can be talked in a broader, can be actually termed in a broader approach. So the restrictions are not so strict as the PDO, the protected designation of origin, are in a more strictly way when it comes to how many grapes should be produced, enological methods, while the protected geographical indication is more freely to do things compared to the PDO ones
Right,
mentioned.
right.
Yeah, and
I
PDO
think,
and Xinomavro, sorry for the interruption,
no,
belongs
not
in
at
our
all,
region. The red and also the rosé in Amyndeon is a PDO one, 100% that's Xinomavro rosé PDO of Amyndeon.
which is probably one of the best rosés as well, right?
I assume if you say so.
Yes, absolutely. And before we leave the topic of Assyrtiko, as you mentioned, the Assyrtikos that are growing in your area are, I think, developing a very its own identity, very distinct. We are very pleased to see that more and more drinkers, especially in the U.S. market, are enjoying Assyrtikos from your area. So I tip the hat off to because these are all very challenges. You vision something, you see it, you feel it, and then when it comes to fruition, it's just very rewarding to see that wines like Assyrtiko from Florina are definitely developing a huge followership. And speaking of that, consumers and so forth, and second generation, we're also moving into a world of new generation of wine drinkers, and they're more adventurous. They're very open. They might be a little more critical, but I think critical in a very positive way, where they're understanding and appreciating the work that goes into certain styles of wine. And we'd like to maybe speak a little bit about this with you, about the new generation or the next generation of wine drinkers. Are you also taking direction in the production of your wines because of this movement in next generation drinkers?
So the trends should always be followed from a winery that respects its drinkers and its consumers, but we should not forget, or we should not surpass our vision. The modern consumer is not simply looking for another technically well-made wine. They're looking for identity, actually,
Mm,
authenticity, consistency, and a clear sense of origin. So they want wines that can be placed precisely on the map. So, and to drink wines that they like, but they also represent something. They represent the region, but also they represent the winemaker in a way that is can be also approachable in the terms of price, but also in terms of the taste of what it represents behind the label. So for me, for I believe the second generation of Alpha State, we respect the consumer, but also respect the enological methods and our beliefs when it comes to the final wine, to making the final wine, I would say.
very well said. I love the way you put it, that as drinkers now are seeking, the expression of the wines from its true identity, the location, the hands-on, the terroir, all that put together, I think is what you're mentioning. Next generation drinkers are being more respectful to that, are enjoying and appreciating what you're doing. So, what about a little bit about what you're seeing in the restaurant level with great wine programs and sommeliers who are curating programs, and they're having more and more interest in wines that are from the Florina area?
I believe that, as I mentioned before, they want wines that consumers focused on the consumers. So what we do is also the sommelier follow the trends, having also their knowledge behind, but they want wines that can be placed precisely, as I mentioned, on the map, that work creatively with food, I would say, that offer the guest a genuine sense of discovery. So Florina possesses all of these qualities. It combines a cool continental climate, as I mentioned, high elevation, distinctive soils, indigenous varieties, and a recognizable style based on freshness, acidity, and elegance. So I believe that the white wines, especially as I mentioned from of PGI Florina, have the intensity, acidity, and precision required by contemporary fine dining and a multi-course tasting, I would say. It can combine the original varieties of PGI and PDO wines of our region, but also they develop the taste of the consumer of what they need. So I believe the wines that are made from Alpha are focused on also to help the sommelier pass this trend
Right.
to the final consumers. Yeah.
Excellent. And having said that as well, Giliki, you know, you're always, I think, come from an operation, a family that always thinks forward, has vision. You have invested so much into your area, from research, from the technology that you apply. The conversation we had with your father was just fascinating on the tools that you're using to produce better wine right from the vineyard. Is there anything you might want to share that you're applying, any new practices from the last time we had Angelos on the program?
Yeah, I remember you talked about it a lot. So actually, I would just combine some of the things maybe you mentioned, saying mostly that for us, as you already know and talked about, technology does not replace the experience of the viticulturist. It actually strengthens it by providing more precise data and allow us to intervene only where and when it's truly necessary. This is a need to do. So, as already been said, through satellite imaging, thermal monitoring, weather stations, and detailed vineyard mapping, we can access all the above mentioned from all the varieties such as Assyrtiko and Xinomavro when it comes to vine vigor, variations in ripening, the degree of water stress across individual parcels, because as again, I know you mentioned it, but it's very important for people who want to know more about climate change, what that means to our vineyard. We have a lot of issues now, but we managed and we started it 20, 30 almost years ago, I would say, before even I was born,
Oh,
to
wow.
talk about it in Alpha State and to make things in order to save from what would happen in the next year. So the degree of water stress on the different parcels is one of the most important things that we made sure to make in the right way.
Very well said. Very well done. You are probably the pioneers, I believe, in my opinion, and it could be debatable, in using technology in a way, as you mentioned, to strengthen the results of your production. From ourselves, I can, maybe Ari can speak for himself, but whenever we're out and we are traveling and we are visiting great restaurants, it's always a pleasure to see a listing of Alpha State on these wine programs. It just goes to show, and when I'm talking about non-Greek concepts in the US that are listing some of your wines, makes us also feel proud that we have these, international concepts featuring wines from Alpha State. And having said that, looking ahead, Angeliki, to the next maybe 5 years or so for Alpha State, what is something maybe you can let our listening audience remember, or we can leave them with, about when it comes to Amyndeon, that you might want to express or mention to them?
I would say, to conclude all the above, what I already mentioned is that Amyndeon does not want to imitate anyone. It wants to be a global reference on its own terms. So, as the climate warms, cool high altitude becomes an advantage, and our discipline stays the same: precision, viticulture, old ungrafted vines, sustainability, and knowledge passed to the next generation. So, it's very important that has been passed and we want to keep making great wines for consumer that will appreciate the work and will want to try the style of Alpha State wines.
Excellent. Well said. This has been a great opportunity that you've spent with us. I'm always a big fan of what you and your family are doing. Ari, anything that you might want to kind of express after listening to Angeliki's, wholehearted feelings about the area and the production of wine that they're making?
Well, I want to say, like father, like daughter, I was very fascinated when we interviewed your dad, and the depth and the passion that he has, and it seems that it transferred to you as well. And as Foti's the wine expert, I'm more of the outsider learning, and I love to listen to it. I love to listen to what goes into it. I love to hear, and better yet, I love to taste. And I had the pleasure of seeing your dad at a wine dinner here in DC, and it was amazing through and through. So we thank you so much for all that you guys do.
Yes.
Thank you, really. For me, it's so important that people like you, podcasts like this, help to actually talk about the history, talk about the generations, talk about me, my father, and the work you make is also very important for people to know, because maybe the knowledge is here, but it needs to be said. So for me, it's very
Well,
important that I get to speak and talk about the work we make, because we
Right.
are a team all together, Alpha State. So it's very important that you do this, guys. And thank you so much for having me also.
of course, we will always keep continually spreading the word about yourselves in Alpha State. You can be assured of that. But
Thank you very much.
thank you. This has been a pleasant episode with you. We look forward to having you back again, whether it's yourself or your dad or anyone from your team. You're always
Yeah.
welcome back on the Urban One Club podcast. Ari, take it away, brother.
Yeah, I want to thank you once again, Angeliki. We know you're a busy person. We know you have a lot going on, summertime, and thank you for taking the time with us. Foti, all the way in Greece, thank you as well. I'm holding the fort down here in the US, but you guys enjoy. Thanks everybody out there for watching and listening. Check out all the information in the show notes. We will have everything there, links. Get out there, support, try, do everything you can, because that's what we're here for. We're here to spread the good word about wine, and amazing wines at that. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Take care.
Thank you.